Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And my brothers and sisters, the content that we're going to talk about today to start this week off right is another example of when an emergency happens, the Second Amendment, or at least the defense and self-defense and gun rights come back in vogue. We're seeing another country take official steps, this time in Israel, to do things we saw in Ukraine, which kind of proves the point that there is value in self-defense and the right to keep and bear arms. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I can't wait to hear from you guys on this one. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And the content today is brought to you by SDI. Now, I know a lot of you out there like to upgrade and modify your own guns. And if you're looking to turn a hobby that you love into a career, what are you waiting for? The online courses at Sonoran Desert Institute can help you with gunsmithing, ballistics, woodworking and finishes, shooting, sports management, and more. Plus, all the tools and materials are shipped directly to your door. There's never been a better time to turn a hobby that you love into a career from your own home. So what are you waiting for? There's a link in the description box below, and thank you so much to SDI for making this content possible. All right, my brothers. We got to hit this. We got to go back to Israel because they have loosened the requirements on gun ownership. Listen to this, and then we're going to compare and contrast a few things. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. So, this is from The Reload. Israel loosens gun laws after unprecedented terror attack. Well, I mean, it does make sense if you have unprecedented attacks going on in any capacity. It would make sense that you'd want the population to defend themselves for not only themselves, but also a better outcome for the state. But that's the whole principle. That's why we're armed. That's why the population here in the United States has the Second Amendment. The whole idea is to defend against enemies foreign and domestic. We're going to get into that more in a second. Let me show you what they're doing and contrasting it to Ukraine. As the Russian army approached Kiev last February, the government distributed 10,000 rifles to civilians, hoping to stem the tide. The Ukrainian army, bolstered by civilian resistance, eventually pushed Russians away from their capital city. And I'm going to hit this a lot. Because in the last 2 to 3 years, you've had two sovereign nations undergo some sort of pressure from an external force, whether it be Hamas, a terrorist group, whether it be a actual organized state like Russia. The entire principle remains. The population is your line of defense that you have enough well-trained, well-armed people that if something pops off, you're ready to deal with it. You're not trying to play catch up by just dumping AKs in the street like Ukraine did. And we saw them do it, and we saw the media praise the entire thing. That's the point here. This is not about a reactionary. This is about pre-planning. This is about preparing. We won't, most likely not going to need in the exact same scenario, but we might. The thin layer of veneer of civilized behavior is going to disappear because at the core root of everything, we're still humans. We still have the same problems. The same things have happened for thousands of years, and they will continue. That's why the Second Amendment exists. That's why our founding fathers put it in place, because government has a tendency to become overbearing. They are guaranteed not to do it if the population is armed, if they are afraid of them. If a foreign government comes in, again, it makes it a lot harder because you don't just have to worry about the military, you have to worry about the entire population. There's a reason this is in place. But let me show you what they're doing in Israel. Again, this is a core root understanding of freedom. Let's keep going. Let me show you what they're doing to release restrictions. So this is from one of the main directors, I believe, of national security in Israel. Today, I directed the Firearms Licensing Division to go on an emergency operation in order to allow as many citizens as possible to arm themselves. This will take place in 24 hours. Now, I'm going to hit these points very high, and if you want to see it more in depth, in detail, and more discussion, Second Legacy with me and Tim, we did the same thing today. It's linked in the description box, but a much longer, in-depth deep dive. In Israel, you don't really have the same gun rights you do here in America. In fact, they only let you have a pistol. You have to go through permitting. You have to go through health screenings. You have to go mental health screenings. You have to go through interviews. You can get one pistol and you can have 50 rounds of ammunition. There's lots of things. There's permit required to purchase. There's permit for training. There's required follow-up training, and then you lose your gun if you don't do it. There's lots of gun control the left here in the United States would love to have that's in Israel. But they're relieving restrictions. Again, Ukraine, emergency relieves restrictions. Israel, emergency relieves restrictions to differing degrees, which I'm about to go into. But the whole point is you're going towards an armed populace as the solution to an armed threat. You're meeting fire with fire. That's the key, but for some reason it seems out of step until the impossible becomes reality. That's the point. Let's keep going. Let me show you what they're doing. So first, they're going to go through all the exact same testing, the exact same requirements, except in Israel now you can do through a telephone interview, not a in-person physical interview. So they've released that restriction. They've now said if you had all your training that was not up to date and you got your gun turned in, you can have it back. If you wanted to go through the entire process again, don't worry about it. We've got you. And then they'll also allow you to have 100 rounds of ammunition instead of 50. Now, this is not like, stand on the gates of the Bastille and just stand up against the entire army. But it's a step in the direction. The point, again, I'm not trying to make is this is an amazing step so that they now have a Second Amendment. What I'm trying to drive home here is to reinforce the root idea that the Second Amendment exists because an armed populace can not only defend ourselves externally from external threats, but we can also defend ourselves against tyranny. The entire idea is a threat deterrent. You don't want to go in there and do that because you're going to kick a hornet's nest. Tim, this morning on Second Legacy, made a really great analogy to the quote from Admiral Yamamoto. There's a rifle behind every blade of grass. We're not going in there. There's many studies and many things I've seen that the Japanese in World War II could have gone all the way to the Midwest before they were stopped by the United States Army had the civilian population not been armed. That's the point. In Ukraine, you saw it. Give everyone AKs, teach them how to do Molotov cocktails, teach them how to produce things. In Israel, release restrictions or at least ease up on them a little bit. The entire principle remains. The left will tell you that it's impossible in a civilized world. I've hit this a bunch. It's civilized. That's an archaic idea. The Second Amendment is meant for a different time, a bygone era. They could have never foreseen this type of thing. You think they never foresaw foreign armies invade? You think they never saw armed uprisings? All of those things existed back then just like they exist now. The Second Amendment is here to prevent all of those things through threat deterrence, and if you're stupid enough to do it in America, you're going to get a lot of deterrence, and it's going to be a lot real fast because you have a standing army in the population. You're seeing countries in Europe, completely different units. You're seeing armies in Israel, completely different. They're different people groups, they're different backgrounds, they're different geographical regions. But the principle remains. The Second Amendment, the idea of the people to be armed, is a deterrent, and that's the whole point. We are ready, willing, and able to defend ourselves, and we have the practice, the armament, and the skill sets and the knowledge to do it. And that's the important piece. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.